Let me ask you this, man, because so I made that natural joke thing before, but you are natural. You haven't, you don't use anything, but you have goals of trying to compete in the ADCC, which they don't care if anyone takes anything, so it wouldn't necessarily be against the rules. What are your thoughts on that for jiu-jitsu in general, and what are your thoughts on that for yourself? Because if you choose to use anything to maybe enhance your recovery or enhance your ability to recover from training session to training session, it necessarily wouldn't be illegal, but what's your take on that?
Me in particular, it just kind of starts like morally. Morally, my parents just never wanted me to do drugs like any to begin with, and I didn't drink till I was 22. I'd never done weed or anything like that. I just lived a very relatively clean lifestyle, you know. But in regards to the jiu-jitsu thing, the way I see it, and Oliver Taza and I talked about it because he doesn't take anything, and so his take on it was like, I can feel where the guys are really, really strong, and I can feel where their strength is beating me in certain areas. But his outlook on it was, and I appreciate his outlook because he's competed at ADCC 3 times.
Yeah, he's a high level guy.
Right, and he's just like, where I feel like they're overpowering me with strength, I still have room to grow in my technique. Like that's his outlook. And so, and I think that's kind of like, that's a relatively basic statement, like technique always prevails. But obviously strength has a huge aspect and proponent to it when it comes to competing at a high level. But and there's no graph or drawing that's like strength is this important compared to technique, and there's no line that actually shows that. Yeah. But what I would say in regards to me in particular, I haven't noticed any decline in my recovery rate. That's number one. Number two, even rolling with the best guys on their team, their main comment is how strong I am. So I figure if
it's a backhanded comment.
Yeah, well, I get it for sure.
You're so strong. I hate hearing that.
Yeah, I know. Although when Luke told me, I was like, thanks, man.
Yeah. I feel you.
Is it usually after someone taps you out?
Yeah.
Like, wow, you're pretty powerful.
After like the 5th time, yeah. But so, I figure if the guys that have competed at the highest level have that opinion of me when they're rolling with me, then the strength thing is probably not the biggest thing that I need to address. It's like the equivalent of like if I might maxed out at 50 pounds on a deadlift and then I brought up to 315, you probably see some legitimate carryover to the mat. But me now being over 800 pounds, if I brought it up to like 950 or something, you probably wouldn't see anything. You know what I mean? It's already an established strength of mine. Yeah. I think there's certain areas of mobility that I could work on that can make my game better.
Like what?
Specifically for me right now, like my adductor length.
Okay.
Yeah, like being able to do the splits, basically. I don't think I'm immobile by any means, but more so like that next level. But with that said, I think that the majority of jiu-jitsu people, because they're so invested in jiu-jitsu and because the thought of strength training in jiu-jitsu is still pretty new, very few people have truly given themselves the chance to go through a legitimate strength or muscle building phase, multiple at that, to actually see like, could I just get to a comparable strength naturally to where strength isn't your weakness? And then from there, like just continue to build a technique. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And, for me, that's the main way that I look at it, where I could jump on gear and I could get a lot stronger in comparison to the people I'm rolling with. Could it make me perform better? Probably, but not any more than just dedicating the extra time to getting better at the technique or whatever else I'm missing.
That's I think you have a good point. You go to sleep, you recover, you eat your protein, you do all these things. Obviously, enhanced testosterone levels can help in some ways, but it seems like they help the most in sports where the overriding thing is strength. Olympic lifting, power lifting, right? Those kind of sports where the numbers are really important, and having like a specific body weight. I'm not saying it wouldn't do anything in jiu-jitsu. You're seeing it, you're seeing it with a lot of high level guys are doing it nowadays, but I also would think that is probably deceiving to people. In my opinion, it would just represent such a small amount of how skilled that person is.
Right. I think about it. I probably lift more than most people that I'm going against. So then, like from the standpoint of somebody taking steroids and they still lift less than me, but I'm still losing to them. Is it steroids? Is it steroids what I need? Because I'm still technically strong. Whether I'm doing it naturally or on gear, I'm still technically stronger than the person. Yeah. That's how I feel, at least.
And you can train frequently and you don't have any.
Yeah, exactly. So, at that point, like I think you can consider steroids like a supplement to their training, and I think it kind of makes up maybe for a lot of lost time or time most people don't want to invest into just hard strength. Because to that respect, we talk about recovery and then doing a hard strength program and doing high level jiu-jitsu. That's a tandem in itself, right? And so, but me individually, again, I haven't felt too many diminishing returns from doing both, but if I need to, I'd be more willing to sacrifice how much I'm lifting rather than how much I'm doing jiu-jitsu. But yeah, that's a rabbit hole we could go down for hours. But yeah.
What if it makes, let's say 4 really hard jiu-jitsu sessions feel like 2, so then you can have potentially 3 more sessions that week or something, because then you're still working on the technique. But again, this is just assuming.
That's a huge point, and I'm probably not the best guy to speak on like how that feels. I guess like it's interesting to ponder, because that's probably, if anything, over the strength, that's probably the best point you can make. If somebody feels like it allows them to train more, work on their skills, adapt new techniques, and that's probably the best benefit to steroid uses in jiu-jitsu is maybe that factor alone, because the strength in itself, obviously, as we know, is subjective. But I guess that's when it comes down to the individual, is like, do you feel like you can't recover? And I haven't hit that point yet, thankfully. I think a lot of it has to do with the time invested in my earlier years lifting, building durability, and as well as like the mobility stuff more recently. What's your take on it?
On PED use in jiu-jitsu?
Like just being able to recover faster?
I think that depends on like the type of sessions that you're doing. So like, when you're training jiu-jitsu, there are days that you could do just specific training. Like you mentioned, not doing all the takedowns, being careful, not trying to like working more on technique rather than the exertion you have on rolls. You can still get a very effective training session in with jiu-jitsu while not fatiguing yourself so much that you can't have a strength training day. And the thing is like, it also depends on where the athlete's starting. You have been lifting since you were fucking 5, right? So you have this base of strength training knowledge that when you go into the gym and you have a decent strength training session, it doesn't fatigue you as much as it would a grappler who hasn't really strength trained much. And then they go in the gym and they have a hard session. But because it's so new to them, it's almost like the feeling of when you started jiu-jitsu for the first time.
You're right.
Do you remember that feeling? Well, I mean, you've been wrestling, but
I get it.
I started jiu-jitsu when I was 23. Andrew knows what it's like when you first start jiu-jitsu. The level of fatigue you feel in your body and the soreness because of the new stimulus isn't something that you could do 5 days a week. But me and you, we can have 5, 6, we can train every day in the gym, and we're smart enough to have an effective session without it affecting everything else we do. Whereas most jiu-jitsu guys don't have that strength training knowledge to go into the gym and train in a way that's effective, but doesn't fatigue them so much that they can't go to the mat. So then they think, oh, I'm just going to focus on jiu-jitsu rather than this whole gym thing. Whereas if they did take a little bit more time to have a good structured training program in the gym while also being smart with their jiu-jitsu sessions, they could do both pretty well at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. And my experience, especially with a lot of my online clients when they start out with me, especially if they are jiu-jitsu athletes, when it's starting at lighter weight or lower volume, they either question it or
it's not hard enough.
One of the questions that I like is, "Hey man, this is supposed to make me stronger, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." it's like no, but yeah. So, but to that point, it's I found at all levels really. You have people that want to work hard, and that's a great like foundation to have. But then that could also be taken too far when I have to constantly remind these people the weightlifting is purely supplemental to jiu-jitsu. Like you're not lifting to lift more or compete. And we have to draw that fine line. And a lot of, I think, jiu-jitsu guys, if they're coming in without a coach or without an experienced coach, come in and train as if they're trying to do a lifting competition where it's just so misguided, where you don't need a whole lot to have the stimulus to carry over week after week and make progress, whether it's building muscle or building strength or whatever the case may be. And neither you or I know where that fine line is, but we have a pretty decent idea through all the experience and what we know. And I think that's why it's important, if you are a jiu-jitsu guy and you do want to take strength training seriously, to invest in somebody that knows what they're doing, because they're going to be able to have a bird's eye view over where that fine line is much better than somebody's coming in off the streets would.
Yeah.